I'm very excited about this because, I've lived here since 1985, and I've watched many changes in the community. A few weeks ago, I was part of a visioning that was done by the Marcus Garvey Park Alliance about the future of the restoration of the Acropolis, Marcus Garvey Park, along with the Fire Watchtower. And, from Senator Perkins' point of view, we are going to need not only the city government, there's talk about the federal government, and private contributions. We're going to need everyone we can reach out to in order to succeed in accomplishing this effort to restore the Fire Watchtower and the Acropolis and Marcus Garvey Park. The Fire Watchtower is unique because even though there were almost a dozen of these watchtowers created around the city just before the Civil War, because they were made obsolete by the invention of the telegraph, there's only one that survives today. And the wonderful story to me about the Fire Watchtower, everyone knows that it was designed by this guy, Julius Kroll, who imitated the more famous architect, Bogardus, who was famous for his cast-down architecture. And that's all great. And it's also interesting that in creating this Fire Watchtower like a tower of a fire ranger in a national park where you look out through a telescope. He was up there with a telescope in a glass octagon with a pot-bellied stove all by himself looking out to see fires. And then I always wondered, what happened when he saw a fire? He's up there by himself. He rang the bell, but then I thought, well, he's ringing the bell, then there's a fire, where's the fire? Well, he would ring in special peals, and those peals were a code, and they were interpreted to tell you, well, it's 2 blocks from here or 1 block from there. And that was, you can imagine that a lot of the city got burned down as a consequence from this inadequate means of notifying people that something was on fire. Of course, people would see the smoke too, I guess that helped. But the thing that's really exciting to me is that because this was put on the top of the hill in Mount Morris Park, which has always interested me because it is the only park in the city that we know of where no one knows for whom it was named. Who was Mr. Morris or Mrs. Morris or Morris, period. But beyond that, it's that it was made into a kind of decorative element of the landscape. So much so that it came to be identified with by the people who lived in the surrounding community once houses were built in large numbers in the period following the Civil War by speculators who built brownstone-fronted houses for middle-class people. And people identified with these houses, who lived in these houses, identified so much with the Fire Watchtower that even once it was obsolete, people insisted that it be preserved, but not just that it be preserved, but that the custom of the bell being pealed on the hour to tell people what time it was, that continue as well. And that continued right up until the First World War. And so it's very exciting to me, the notion that with the restoration of the tower, perhaps that might be reinstated, that the bell might toll from the tower in Mount Morris Park. This tower, this symbol, has figured large in American literature. If you read works as diverse as one by James Baldwin, where he sets a funeral on the Acropolis, or if you read Henry Roth's magnificent trilogy, Mercy in a Rude Stream, which includes a volume called A Star Shines Over Mount Morris Park. This landmark features and all of that wonderful, uniquely American literature. And so this is something well worth preserving, well worth celebrating as the focal point of a proud community. And it's a wonderful thing that we're gathered here today to join forces to see to it that an irreplicable landmark be restored and appreciated into the future. And the visioning that we had, one of the things that was so frustrating, you know, is that there were those like me who were romantic and impractical who had the fantasy vision, oh, wouldn't it be great if it could be restored in such a way that you could climb that flight of stairs and look out from the octagon, the glass octagon at the top. And of course, the more and more I think of it, the less likely that that seems that modern concerns about liability and will permit anything like that. But just to have that restored, and also to have the Acropolis restored, because what that party last fall indicated so well is that with bathrooms and with electricity and with cooking gas, that can become an incredible venue for benefit parties, for wedding receptions. It can just become one of the premier places for people to come to in the city. Now, of course, as I say this, I suppose some of you might have second thoughts and say, do I really want to hear people at midnight laughing and playing music up on the top of the hill on a summer's night? Maybe not. But that's all to the future, because we have ahead of us an incredible task to raise an incredible but an achievable sum to do wonderful work. So I thank you all for coming here tonight and look forward to working with you and realizing something that really will be an incredible thing. And closing, I'll just say that, you know, there are lots of things that I never thought that I would live long enough to see in Harlem. And one of those was I never thought that, I really believed that it would happen, but I never thought that the steeple on the Ephesus Seventh-day Adventist Church, which was lopped off after there was a fire there in the 1960s, I never thought that that would be restored within my lifetime. And there it is. I thought that it was, in fact, that it was as unlikely as there being an African-American president, and there they both are. And so if that can happen, anything can happen in Harlem. Thank you so much.